Hey guys, okay, so what we're going to do today, first of all, great job on the quiz yesterday, by the way. But what we're going to look at today is, I guess, kind of an extension on what we did on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we looked at all the different representations of proportions. And I don't know why I'm screen sharing already. And you guys told me yes or no for all the different representations. Well, today, I don't need to know necessarily if the representations themselves are proportional, but I need you to be able to take a representation and turn it into the others. So what I mean by that is if I were to give you a table, can you turn it into a graph and an equation and a unit rate, that verbal description? If I just gave you an equation, could you turn it into a graph, a table, and verbal description? Or if I gave you the description, you turn it, it's just about taking one of them and showing it in other forms, okay? So this first example we're gonna do, this is about, that's really bright. This is about two people apple picking. Let's see, I don't know which one's better. The graphs didn't print very well on this anyways, so is probably going to be as good as it's going to get. So this is about Anne and Jamie. They're participating in apple picking competition. Whoever picks the most apples in 30 minutes wins. So I'm given a table for both of these people, and I'm asked to find the unit rate, the equation, and then I have to graph this information. So let me graph this real quick. 10, 70, 15. There we go. Sorry, I talk to myself when I work. I don't know about you guys, but there we go. All right. Go. So the unit rate is really probably the best place to start because that will help you write the equation. It will help you see it on the graph. And that unit rate, we really know a few different ways to find it. And by now you've probably found which one you like best. For me, what I like to do is just label that as the common multiplier. Now you can take 5 apples and divide by 5 minutes and tell me it's 7 minutes per apple. Excuse me, 7 apples per minute. Or you can recognize that in your table, that common multiplier is the unit rate. I've kind of had you do that this whole time without knowing. And some of you have picked up on it, which is great. But that is the best strategy personally to find that unit rate. Now, once I find the unit rate, I can instantly go to write my equation. Remember, the unit rate is the K in our y equals kx equation. Now you're also going to hear it not only called the unit rate, but you're going to hear it called the constant of proportionality. And this is one of those things where it's just for some reason, somebody decided to give it this crazy name versus just calling it the unit rate. Actually, I wish I didn't have to call it the constant of proportionality, but you will hear it that way on MAP tests and on our district tests that they create. So, it's as simple as asking for the unit rate, but just don't let that vocabulary scare you. When you see constant of proportionality until you feel good, remind yourself, unit rate, okay? Now, where do I see that? In the graph, right? What if I give you zoomed in too far. What if I gave you just a graph and I said, find the unit rate for me. Where is it located on the graph? Now this isn't, oh wow, and zooming in that far made the lines completely disappear. This isn't the best graph to do this with because notice how if I find 1 minute, remember we're looking at apples per minute, that's our unit rate. Well, if I go over, I could definitely make a ballpark that it were about 8 or 7 is probably what I would have guessed if these weren't here. But this graph I can see it, but I have to make a guess because I'm not quite sure what that point reads. Now, if you have the table, you can calculate it no matter what the graph says. If I just gave you the graph, you would have to estimate that, okay? So that's full circle, right? We got all of our representations from our table. We're gonna do the same thing again for Jamie. 324, 648. Now, for the sake of argument, I'm going to go ahead and just graph those 2 points. I would not do that for you. I would recommend doing all of them. Okay. All right, so I'm going to find my common multiplier to get my unit rate. So it's 8 apples per minute, or y equals 8x. Okay. Therefore, if I were to ask myself, really this whole question was about who picked the most apples per minute, that would be, I've got my Anne doing 7 apples a minute, and I've got Jamie doing 8 apples a minute. So Jamie is the faster. Okay. Now, with that said, what I'd like us all to work on, I'm going to do one of these for you, and you guys are going to look at the last 2 on your own. This will be what we do together at our meeting. This is using different representations to make a decision like that. Okay, so look at this first one. It says Tracy and Kelly want to know which one of their dogs runs faster. The graph below represents the constant speed of Kelly's dog, and the equation represents the constant speed of Tracy's dog. Which dog, both in meters per second. Which dog has the greater speed or unit rate? Okay. So let's look at the graph first. Again, I'm gonna zoom in here. But if I look at this graph, I need to find the unit rate. And on the graph, that unit rate is where I find the number 1. So just like before, I'm gonna go up and then I'm gonna go over. Oh, good, and it's on a beautiful number for us. It's right at 10. You can even put the dot and write that point. It's 1, 10. Okay, that means 10 meters is my unit on the graph per second. Okay. Now I go down to Tracy's dog and I look at the equation, and this is when it's actually a super simple problem as long as you know what you're looking at, right? That 11 is the constant and is the unit rate. So it's right, use different color, right there for me. No problem. Give me an equation every time. And with that said, now I can compare them and I see that Tracy's dog is a little bit faster than Kelly's dog. Okay. I'm going to zoom out here. Because this is so hard visually, I may post this also on our module for today, so you can pull that up. I don't know how dark it is for you guys on your end, but I'd like you to, for both of these sections, you're going to find the unit rate for each person or situation, and then hopefully be able to tell me who is faster. I think this one's about a toy car, and this one is about the pay rate. Okay, and I will see you for our meeting.